Okay, let's just get into it. Hey everyone, hope you're doing better. I think I'm doing better. I don't think I sound as nasally and congested as I used to, so I hope that everything is good with that. I realized I probably should have been showing the video that we're basing this whole thing off of. Let me just pull up the video itself here soon. Oh, here it is. I already have it loaded up on a web page. But we don't want it at a certain time. We just want to share it with everybody. So, hi, Summer and Brett. So this is the video itself. So, this is a amazing video. I remember watching it when it was first coming out, and I was enraptured. The skill that the Kings and Generals channel on their second channel and what they did with the timeline is really incredible. So I'm probably just going to, instead of watching the video itself, I'm going to like snipping tool a bunch of still frames from the timeline so that we can see it together and I don't like leak stuff of my own stuff. Let's just get going on to the main occasion here. So I made a bunch of different timestamps of what I saw and then an idea of what it could be at the end here. So in another layer above bleed prevent, probably above notes too, I want to make a new thing which is like stills. That's cool. I'm glad more eyes are getting onto this because it's a really amazing timeline. Like, this is the quality of visuals, right? So basically the point of divergence, really simple. Batu's kid died of like alcoholism or something. It caused Batu Khan to get really upset and then fall into obscurity. His realm of the Golden Horde, which is like, I'm just gonna make a new note so I don't leak other notes. His realm of the Golden Horde, which was still technically a part of the Mongolian Empire at this point in time, was like, I believe like this, right? And then these were all tributaries. So like this is the Golden Horde. And then it kind of stagnated. But he had an idea of invading Europe. And that's what this entire video series is about. He manages to get into Hungary and capture the king, kidnap his son, and then get Bella the Fourth to basically get all of his subjects to be subjugated to the Mongolians here, and it becomes a staging ground for them to continue their invasions. So they go in through Bohemia, they go in here. The craziest part is, this is really hard to explain. Let me see if I can find another still for you guys. But basically, one of the most interesting aspects of this scenario is there was a crusade that was being organized at the time. I think it was the Seventh Crusade, and the Frederick II, who was being like excommunicated a bunch of times, was like a bunch of people wanted his land. Somebody was offered the kingdom of Sicily. They eventually did take that, and then a different dynasty ended up being ruling the Holy Roman Empire. But this whole Mongolian incursion, because they're in this time they're actively trying to take over Bohemia. This guy gets crowned Holy Roman Emperor. So there's two different Holy Roman Empires, the northern one and the southern one here. And then like they're trying to basically neutralize this guy so that they can unite the rest of the Holy Roman Empire to push back the Mongols. Galicia was not just a puppet but an ally. Okay, so something happens in the timeline that you may not be aware of. There's a betrayal of the Ruthenians in the initial stage of the invasion of the Mongols, to the point where they completely ravage the area. So in previous versions of the map, it had just the Ruthenia, right? But if you look at this still, this is like a year later, you can see it's occupied Ruthenia, right? No, oh, sorry, am I still coughing? I'm so used to it by now. I've been sick for a long time. But sorry, just bear with me. And it's interesting too because this Polish guy ends up collaborating with the Mongols and taking a bunch of land, including in Silesia, I think. So this Piast here is like a puppet of them, but the Galicia, you see here, Galicia Volhynia was a puppet. Now it's just occupied. So the Ruthenians are ravaged, which is not so good. But it's kind of what you expect when the Mongols invade Europe anyway. So that's just the way it is. Anyway, so eventually you see here the Rhine League starts to expand. The Habsburgs manage to take this area. They have some holdings in northern Italy. Thank you. I think I will be better pretty soon. But the craziest thing that they do is because Frederick II is being ostracized so much by his vassals and the Catholic Church, he manages to do some diplomacy with Batu, and he basically goes, hey, if you give me my son, I'll let you cross through the Alps. And then this ends up causing the Mongols to burn down Rome. So you can see here now all of this South Holy Roman Empire is consolidated under the the Hohenstaufens, the German dynasty that Barbarossa was from, right? So a lot of stuff happens. It's so amazing. I could go into so much more detail, but I think that it's better to leave the rest of the amazing story for you guys to watch, at least for now, because I think I have enough context to hold on. Volhynia is pronounced without an H. Volhynia? Is it Volhynia then? Also, why Pereslav is not part of the empire? I don't even know what Pereslav is. Hold on. I do my best to know about as much history as possible, but Eastern Europe is something that I am particularly not... Oh, is it this thing here? Like, why isn't this part of the Mongolian Empire? I actually don't know. I think I was basing it off of this, because this is like the 1246 map I made. This is 1227, this is 1248, right? So now you're starting to see a little more things here. So this is annexed, I believe, but then this is still, yeah. So maybe this is should be a part of the empire. I'm not too sure. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this stream today is to get people who may be more interested or knowledgeable about this sort of history to let me know. Yeah, Pereslav is the red state in Ukraine. Yeah, thank you. Hold on, I'm gonna clear my throat again. It's okay, Grud. I got it. Good to see you, by the way. Thanks for being a channel member for so long. Really appreciate your extra support. But so by this time, the Rome has been sacked. There may have been a fight that at this point did pretty well for the Crusaders and spoil everything that happens there. But well, maybe I will actually eventually do it, because it's been a year since the movie came out, and the movie only included like the last episode, and I think before that it was a year before that even, so it's been out for a long time. So hold on, just gotta do something for my wife here. Okay, so we have the Mongolians. They managed to take out a bunch of land here. They actually end up completely taking Bohemia. The one thing I don't really understand is like what caused the Mongols to conquer a region or make a puppet out of them. That's the one thing I don't understand. I imagine that they would take a lot of the steps for themselves, but then no, it's not your fault, Void. Don't worry about it. I was interrupted by something else. They would have conquered plains territories that would have been really good for them to be able to stage their invasion. So Hungary would be a good part of that, but they have basically the entire region subjugated because of the king that they have in custody. So it's like a foreign military base, basically, in like modern geopolitical terms, but that's the one thing I don't really get. Could be like with Muscovy because the focus on more Western expansion. With Pereslav, you mean? I'm not sure. Mongolians destroyed this duchy and annexed it. Okay, well, I'll probably just address that later on when I get to the 1337 time. They should have taken Poland. But the problem is that like in the canon, it's a puppet state. The Piast, one of the Piasts betrayed all of his other Piasts to become the king of Poland, and is a subject of the horde. So we can't really have Poland be independent. There's something also that was mentioned. I was like watching the video, well, at least listening to the video while we were while I was driving home. They said that the Polish and other people were allowed to take lands from the Ruthenians as long as it remained barren. So that could expand the Polish borders a little bit, maybe not even to the way that it's currently portrayed in the map, but we'll see. Yeah, they definitely have Poland as like a vassal, but I'm trying to I'm wondering how to map this out, because this implies that it's like a core territory, but there would be like places that are like direct vassals, like this Hungarian area would be, right? And then these are like autonomous regions of the Kingdom of Hungary. So these would be like territories, but these are more like tributaries. So I probably need to change that. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling here. But then again, this is a map and yap. This is what you're here for, right? Mongols annexed territories that were strategically important and resistant for direct taxation and control, while they puppeted others to avoid the cost of direct administration. Yeah, got it. That makes sense. Anyway, so I'm not sure where else to really go with this, but I think that the thing that I'm really excited about that I want to share is, first of all, I'll just show the rest of the maps. At one point, the Venetians start trying to make their own Roman Empire or Roman Republic. The Mysian people here become a direct vassal of the Mongolians. The what is this guy's name? Frederick's Holy Roman Empire manages to slowly become more and more of a puppet, but they're still kind of like consolidated as an ally, so I still have them like this. But when it comes to like places that are directly controlled or by like a tributary, I mark them like this. It's worth noting Berlin and I think Brunswick get completely sacked in this timeline, so it doesn't exist anymore. And then 1250, this is around where the situation is ended, but this is also where I make my big point of divergence here. So at the end of the series, the Venetian republics, which are trying to become the new Roman Empire, they form their own sect of Christianity after news of Rome's burning happens. They manage to do this really big maneuver where they take Batu and Bella out of prison and then try to revolt him, make a huge kingdom of Hungary, and then cut the Mongols off from their main supply line and their main like grazing area for their staging ground of Europe. And they managed to pyrrhically defeat the Mongolians. Batu leaves, he dies. Zvezda leaves, he dies. The Roman Republic falls apart. Genoa comes up, and that's the end of the story. And it's like, okay, well, that kind of sucks. Like, I get why they had to kind of rush the ending, but it seems kind of antithetical. Like, it would be actually kind of interesting to have that sort of dynamic where the Mongols are finally pushed out, and then what does Europe do after? But I think it would be more interesting to have a situation like this, where the revolt in Hungary is crushed. These autonomous regions are still granted autonomy. The brainwashed king of Hungary is like, Mongols are actually awesome, by the way. Let's all be friends of the Mongols, because it's like Magyar, they used to move in here. It's like, oh, it's the new Magyars. We're basically brothers, you guys. This is awesome. This like ravaged area might be a puppet because, like Grid said, it would be like a taxing ground. Maybe Bohemia would be as well, but I don't know. There's something about like the how forward it is and how it connects to Meissen up here. This like March tributary. I'm also gonna have a Carinola here because like they're kind of limiting the German stuff and they're being friends with the Slavs by having the Slovakians, the Poles, and the Croatians all being like buddy. The Bulgarians are probably going to be a tributary. I'll adjust these borders in Russia with the Pereslav being annexed. But then we have a situation here where the Frederick, because he gets killed by like Charles, like the brother of the King of France. There's Charles, yeah, Louis's brother, Charles, who eventually became King of Sicily, has a little side quest where he just kills the spawn of Satan or whatever the Pope called him, especially very accurate after the Pope dies, right? So then he comes up. He actually tries starting his own claim for the French kingdom, which I'll cover probably more in the video. But this is Conrad's realm. Conrad lost all of the northern territories, so he can't connect with them, but they're tributaries of the Mongols, and they're protected by the Mongols here, right? Venice would be cowed, basically, and it would become like a main trading like facilitator of sorts. So we have that to consider. But yeah, hold on, I'm gonna read the chat now. Comment in the videos: Sweden would be affected, never answers, sad. The papacy destroyed, have an impact. Yeah, it would have a huge impact. Hey, thank you. I'm glad you like the direction. Well, the influence in the regions anyway. The Mongolian? Well, which exactly? Lead. I think the Mongols would buy a truce to focus on the Sicilians. Perhaps Venetians could even join in. Well, in this timeline, the Sicilians are allies. Like, Batu had a deal with Frederick to transport Conrad from Swabia to Napoli, and he fulfilled his promise. Conrad would actually have a very positive opinion of the Mongols because these foreigners managed to like reunite him with his dad, and then the Christians killed his dad. Like, he would actually be really upset, right? But I think the most interesting thing about this whole dynamic is that, and this is gonna be my main big divergence, is everybody knows that the Great Horde the Golden Horde was Muslim. It was a natural adoption of the religion over time because the Turks that were like their main fighting force were already Muslim. So then they convert and there's a big Muslim horde here. But I think that things would happen differently because they were basically very much influenced by the region, right? And if their new operating base is Hungary and they're looting all these epic defenseless Christian titles, awesome. For the first like century or maybe half a century, they would be basically embedded into the Christian world. So Rome is sacked in this timeline. And it's, instead of the papacy controlling it now, it's their ally, the Frederick's line, ruling this realm. I'm going to call it Italy just for short. Never mind Swabia and Bavaria. It's just Italy, basically. Rome might be in shambles, but the religious networks that everybody has, like trying to go back to Rome. Rome doesn't exist. What do? There's a spiritual power vacuum. That's why the Venetians tried to make their own version of Christianity. Cologne and Mainz would be really big religious centers that were basically the forward operating bases of the Pope in Rome. So there would be like a Catholic sect here with basically everybody who's anti-Mongol supporting it. And anybody who heard about Rome would probably just go back here. Like, the influence is over here, right? But what if people started to believe that God sent Batu to destroy Rome so that their sins would be completely eradicated, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if Batu was God's punishment, like he and Genghis Khan had claimed that they were, if God favored Innocent IV, why did he die? So basically, the idea that I have is a new religious sect would appear that's basically like the Mongols are sent by God to destroy decadence, and we need to learn from this spiritually and create a new sect of Christianity. I'm thinking about calling it Michaelism, because Archangel Michael was very commonly associated with going over to the real world and the spiritual world to do vengeance on do-badders or whatever. So I'm thinking like, and even then, like, I don't think it'd be Batu, it'd be one of Batu's descendants. Probably somebody who rules the white horde, because there's a white and a blue horde. And they would change their names based off the geography, but in our history, there was the white horde and the blue horde that were different wings of the golden horde. And I think it was like this, where this is the white horde and this is the blue horde. So the blue horde would probably be Muslim, but the white horde, especially when it's the borders of the white horde are like over here now, and it's mostly Christian, Orthodox Christian, Catholic. Why wouldn't they adopt a version of the religion that's basically like, yeah, and these people were sent by God? It's like, wow, crazy. Okay, so then let's do it. We'll have the leader of the Golden Horde, the wing of the White Horde, based in like Pest or whatever's left of it, converting to Christianity, but a specific kind of Christianity that reveres Tengriism and all that stuff is actually true. Like, yes, Genghis and his descendants were bestowed by God to conquer the world. It seems like a really, really crazy cope, and it would only basically be adopted by people who were severely traumatized and are trying to like adapt to the new reality. But it's actually perfectly reasonable from like a theological standpoint, in my opinion, right? So then they have a new sect of Christianity, and because where is it? All these places highlighted with gray, besides obviously the Byzantine Empire here, they would all adopt this new form of Christianity. And also not these Orthodox, probably not the Orthodox people up here, but the Catholics would, right? Sorry, I tried muting, but it might not have done it properly. Hold on, I'm checking out the comments here. Bulgarian history, peasant cabbage beat the Mongols in Commissar. That's crazy. He was deposed by the Tartars. Okay, interesting. They could have turned back to Orthodoxy. Who? Well, I forget. Because the Western Schism. Yeah, it could have probably been something like that. It's really hard to predict. I agree. Yeah, I did read. Thank you for that, BRM. I'll take a better look at that. It's funny about the cabbage thing. Yeah. But so what I'm thinking is also because the Venetians were like, they actually bought the Latin Empire from the Latin emperors. So they basically controlled all this land directly. There's an update for Photoshop. I'm using it right now though. And then the Venetians die and they become like bankrupt or whatever. Why wouldn't the Nicene Empire just like march into to Constantinople, reclaim Byzantium, and then all these Crusader states without any backing from a Christian here? The power vacuum is so huge that the Eastern Roman Empire would consolidate themselves way faster after the Latin incursion. Yeah, and that's the thing, is like it would be very diverse. I even had the idea where like Conrad and the Nicene empires, they could have had like a marriage going on, and there could be a plot by the Eastern Roman Empire to get at least Sicily back into their domain and convert them to Orthodoxy, or at least be like, yeah, so Catholicism doesn't exist anymore and you should be following the Pope in here, right? There would be a lot of that. But I do think that it would sort of be kind of a demand by the Mongols to propagate this sect of religion here. And it would allow for Conrad to have a larger support base in this region, basically like his area. But if there's an event where this kind of falls apart, it would probably make sense for the Eastern Roman Empire to somehow get involved here, right? Bulgaria was historically in union with Rome. They broke it off. Yeah. Something that would have Central European mob in 1250 worship in Sofia punishing sinful Catholics. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. Like, it would kind of be a phenomenon that would happen during the invasion and during this time period. It might eventually fade away, especially if we're trying to bridge this over to 1337 and then the Protestant Reformation stuff starts to happen. There's a lot of dynamics here that could be at play. But for now, I'm going to be going with the this sort of situation here where there's basically a bootlicker version of Catholicism. By the way, interesting thing here is Lithuania would be pagan. I forget what his name was. The first Lithuanian king to convert to Christianity would have no reason to convert to Christianity. So they might be a target for the Teutons if the Teutons even exist. And I have Denmark occupying Pomerania. No, I don't. That's just Pomerania. I'm not really sure what's happening here. I'll have to look into this. Sorry, BRM. Maybe you could do text to speech, or you could just watch the VOD after and comment, considering you're in a lecture. Tamerlane, yeah, I wondered that too. But that's an interesting thing about that is that happens during the time frame of EU5. Yeah, Mindaugas, that was his name. So we'd be able to see the effects of Tamerlane's rise here and all this stuff. There's a lot of amazing things that come out of this. But I've done enough yapping about this like interperiod. But what I have going on is that I'm going to have this claimant, Charles, conquer France. And after the Bohemian king, who is the emperor of this Holy Roman Empire, dies, either under mysterious circumstances, they elect the Charles, emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, so that he may do a crusade to get even properly coronated in Rome, even if Rome is ashes, right? And then this would be a big fight here. It would be just after this heresy started spawning, where they were like bootlicking the Mongols. So the Colon papacy, or the Mainz papacy, or whatever you call it, is basically desperately trying to reestablish control over this area so that the heresy doesn't spread. And that's something that they would do here, where they would support Charles's claim. I think that the original writer might have been implying that England would have been directly involved in potentially even integrating France outright. That's just a really big speculation from my end, but it was about when the 100 Years' War, or the claims that the 100 Years' War were based on, would start to happen. So that could be something that happens here. But I just think that it's really interesting to note that like Charles kills kills Frederick, comes back, does some diplomacy with the kings in Aragon, pushes his claim to take France, negotiates with the Colon papacy, being like, I'll recognize your papacy instead of making my own if you manage to make me the emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. My name is Charles, and I'm named after Charlemagne, so I should probably have this title. They're like, okay, there's a big 8th Crusade or whatever it is, where they try to liberate Italy so that they can be coronated properly, root out the heresy, and then push back the Mongols out of Europe. Yeah, I know the Mongol speech in the Sack of Europe is so amazing. I love it. And it kind of inspired this, because he's basically implying, yeah, this guy's living in decadence. He's not actually worshiping God. And then people there are like, oh my God, you're right. Actually, you should be revered for saving us from this corrupt institution, right? And that would be the logic. So what I'm thinking would happen in this crusade is that Charles, like, there could be a really interesting timeline where there's a big France and Italy and Germany that's all under a Holy Roman Emperor that has a French-based rule, and there were some Mongolian stuff that happened here that depopulated the regions, and then you have to like figure that out. That could be interesting. However, I think what would be more interesting is if the French king, the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, dies fighting the empire here. Now, that's not to say that this entire thing would collapse. Bavaria would become like a tributary of here. I'll just switch over to the next thing here. Bavaria would be a tributary here. Swabia would be integrated to this new Holy Roman Empire. Maybe Meissen is reintegrated. I'm not too sure about that. What I haven't mapped out here yet is, because the King of France died without any proper real succession, there's still a bunch of civil wars happening here. England could be pressing a claim. But all these bordering duchies of the Holy Roman Empire, they could be like, well, I don't want to be in another succession war, because Charles put himself in with another succession war. So there was a death. There was a crusade that expended the French forces, then a succession war that ravaged the countryside, then another crusade, and then another succession war. Like, a lot of people, especially Burgundy, would be like, I'm out. Like, screw this whole France business. And then, like, Charles's original claimants and the people who are being backed by Aragon here could be trying to take this realm, but then the English could be supporting another claimant. So I think the general borders of France would be this. This would be English sphere of influence. This would be the sphere of influence of Charles's line. The Holy Roman Empire might actually take all this stuff back. And then this is Holy Roman Empire territory. So the Holy Roman Empire borders is basically shift over east a bit, but and then the French are like this. But then there's a really interesting dynamic that comes here. I have it where the Crusade manages to liberate the northern Po Valley back into the Holy Roman Empire, but it's still a really unstable region. There might be like a pass here that the Mongols have that allow them to continue to prop up basically the Kingdom of Sicily, as it would be called. It wouldn't have any claim to being the Roman Empire anymore, and there's only one Holy Roman Empire. And this is good for EU5 because I don't think you can have two Roman empires with the same mechanics as the Holy Roman Empire. So then you just move it over a bit. There'd be a lot of different things for the player to do here where they could start trying to claim all this territory back, right? Or England just tries to conquer most of France. Yeah, they could definitely just integrate Normandy because they have claims to it, right? And then Paris could actually still be, it could be a part of the Holy Roman Empire or something. There's a lot of different things we can do here. Are we getting an Occitan France? Yeah, I think it would be interesting to have an Occitan sort of thing, especially with the ties to Aragon, to have a like separate cultural identity. Because I'm pretty sure the Occitans of southern France and the Aragonese are more, the Catalans are more culturally similar than the Catalans are to the Castilians. I could be wrong about that, but this sort of dynamic in the way that it shaped over time could mean that we have like a big Aquitania here that is like a counterbalance to all this stuff. Anyway, I have it in the down here, but I do need to bring it up here, so check it out. I'm going to be moving this up, and there you go. Now it's suddenly here. It might not be in the correct thing to highlight, but it's just that easy, right? Occitania could survive, yeah, and that's something I'm really interested in. And it could even be like a piece where it's like, okay, nobody's the king of France anymore. The title is basically gone. There's all these people here. The English control this stuff. Occitania gets this, but nobody's allowed to claim the kingdom of France. But then in EU5, England could be like, I'm claiming the kingdom of France. And then everyone's like, oh my god, I'm so upset. And they get a bunch of, I don't know the exact terms of the new system. I've been kind of keep myself in the dark about EU5 systems, but if it's anything like EU4, they'd get cores on the French territory and be able to fight over it, right? This could butterfly the union of Castile and Aragon as well. Yeah, it could be like a Occitanian Aragonese union instead. There's a lot of cool stuff. Sweden has the potential to be a Mongolian tributary. Oh, interesting. That they could definitely get involved with that. Well, maybe not because it's like the Baltic, and it could be hard for them to get like that, but if they have like an ally that has naval capabilities in the Baltic, then they would definitely try to do that. No, that's okay. This is people with specific history knowledge in several areas of the world that I'm not is one of the reasons why I am so grateful to have a community that I can be able to sit and chat with about this while I refine out the script. Could the Mongols help to improve relations with the Ottomans and Christians, or would they be friends of the Ottomans? I think the Horde would be close to the Shia Muslim. So the way that I think that this is going to resolve, and it's not currently mapped out here, but I have it in notes. So instead of it being the white and blue hordes, it's named after the rivers. So this is the Danubian Khanate. And this is probably the most interesting aspect of this whole thing. If you think about how in modern history, like the USA wanted a bunch of islands in the Pacific. Everybody wanted islands in the Pacific. They fought over all these tiny little islands for no reason. Why? It was a way for them to put their navies and then move them somewhere else. And it was basically like a operating base for invasions, or a way to defend from somebody else, like say taking Taiwan and then invading Japan, or taking Taiwan and then invading China, right? So for this reason, if you think about horses as boats that travel on land, you need a fueling station. And the Pannonian Basin, the Hungarian kingdom, their fertile realm here, the perfect place to start doing more invasions. Germany is forested. Italy, yeah, has a lot of stuff here, but there's a lot of problems here that make it so they just don't invade this area. Because another thing, Alps up here, hills over here, not the best. But this, especially if your main power base is, I don't know, all the way over here, it's good to have something here to be able to move out from. There's the rivers here, the Danubian River. There's a lot of things you can do. The Danubian River goes from here up and around. I think it goes, no, it doesn't go here. It goes through Vienna. It goes through Pest. It goes down in through the border between Bulgaria and Romania, and it splits out here. So in art history, Azov was basically the port of the West to trade with the Mongols, who had a direct control back to China. So in this timeline, the Silk Road would be from Beijing to wherever it is over here. I think Samarkand was a stop. Astrakhan might have been a stop. Azov in the Danube, or even through Ruthenia here. So the Genoese might take this, but then the Venetians have a way to access through up here to Pest. Pest becomes like the western capital of, the far western capital of Mongol Empire, and their ability to trade with Chinese goods and silk make this region really good. So this, like, initially just forward operating base then becomes a sort of excuse for the Mongolian rulers, because they'd be like entrenching themselves with the Hungarian nobility to become sedentary. So let me I have like a certain paragraph in my script right now that I need to find. So this is just me reading a script. Over time, the sedentary lifestyle of the Hungarian nobility would rub off on the Mongolian ruling classes, creating an incredibly unique cultural blend. A Mongolian ruling class supported by soldiers from Slavic, like these regions, and Turkic lands, fed and supplied by a Hungarian lower class, with the former Hungarian ruling class further embedding themselves with the Mongolian Empire, especially as Chinese trade from their goods and technologies with Italian merchants, all while the entire region is practicing a new Christian sect which adopted several different Tengri customs to honor the Mongolian Empire's execution of the divine judgment against the decadent pope. So like this is such a crazy hybrid culture and religion center that I was even considering calling it like Project Pest or something, but this like kind of weird, like pest like is a word in English, not just, and it's not Budapest, because I don't even know what Budapest means, but it could be like that Pest got torn down as like a new Pest, but Pest is Mongolian, but then how do you like convey that it's a Mongolian term? That nobody would get that, so whatever. It's kind of weird to call it a project when like I'm building off of somebody else's work, so I'm not going to do that. But this is the interesting. So the Danubian Khanate would basically be a sedentary form of Mongols who are basically like, how do you do, fellow Christians? But then there'd be a cultural divide between them and the old ways up here. These would be the Muslim great or golden horde that we would know and love from our history. They would likely have the overlordship of the Rus here. The Danubian Khanate would probably still try to get these overlordships, so there'd be a fight between between these two Khanates, which gives the Russians the ability to consolidate and potentially push back both of them. The Polish have been loyal vassals for a long time, but if the Danubian, the Volgan, because this is the Volga River, the Volgan Khanate here have a split, then they might split. They might start trying to go with marry into the German lines, maybe take this land, push them back here. There's so much opportunity for this entire region to fall apart, and the way that they simulate population and cultural dynamics and cultural acceptance between all these different people could make this an amazing EU5 mod, and I really want to see this happen. Coffee break. I'm gonna read all these comments. Why do the Mongolians have lands in Prussia? I'm not sure. I think they just kind of. I think it might even be in the maps. Hold on. 3 cities in 1. Charles might be Charles, but he's not Magna. He's not getting Northern Italy. Yeah. Project Clay and Steel. Dual monarchy in England. Yeah, I think that the English nobility at this time were still kind of thinking that they were French. So having so much more French land could impact the cultural identity of English to potentially be like a subculture of France. And I think EU5 can simulate that by like having it be that your primary culture is French, but then you can integrate the English into your culture or something. So that'd be really interesting. There's so much that you guys are saying. I really wish I could do this. Let me just take a minute to read over here. Can you push Mongolia to northern Japan? Maybe. I don't know, though. I feel like it's better to keep the point of divergence solid in one spot and then keep it going from there. So Batu's kid dying and then them expending more resources in Europe doesn't impact the Mongolian or Yuan dynasty's capability of subjugating Japan. Like the divine wind would still happen. There's nothing that would of Batu's kid's life that would prevent or start a different typhoon happening in a different place. I know the butterfly effect literally is like a butterfly flaps its wings in Africa and a typhoon happens in America or whatever, right? But I don't think that we could really realistically do that or plausibly do that. Division Hungary based off. Yeah, it is confusing. I don't really get it either. I think it's based off of the maps in here. No, it's not. Let me find a better picture for you guys to look at here. It's based off of the initial revolt of the Hungarians after their king is freed from prison. It's interesting because it's the Saxon Transylvania autonomy here. So this is what happens in 1250 when the Venetians managed to free Bella from his imprisonment. So you see here, no, it's not. What? No, I just moved the wrong one. So Hungary is these lands controlled. This is occupied. So this is probably should still be Hungarian. The Duchy of Nietzsche and Saxon Transylvania are regions that are de jure Hungary, but they want autonomy from Hungary. And this is one of the more interesting aspects of this timeline that I really am kind of having problems trying to rationalize. Is if there's a big kingdom that's a vassal of the Mongols, but then there was a revolt and the autonomies here want significant autonomy, wouldn't it be that they would still be a part of Hungary? But then if it's like a century, and then it could even be that the Hungarian king marries a Mongolian whatever, and the dynasties are literally completely intertwined. So it's like the Magyar Mongol dynasty ruling here. These would just be vassals, probably like autonomous regions of the Danubian Khanate, right? But I feel like I need to map this out so people can understand what I'm saying more. You can have two HREs in the same... What? That's insane. No way. Are you serious? I can't believe that. This is my first medieval alternate history. Yeah, that's why it's such a brain melding mess. That, like, even at one point in the script, I'm like, okay, look, it seems like it would be easy because there's like the power's consolidated into just a couple of people, but the way that the religious system and the legal system of inheritance and how people would fight over their claims and people like the Pope would give claims to someone and like the whatever, like it's just so complicated that it's like basically impossible to get into. But the main strokes is that this guy is pressuring his claim is basically what that part of the script is. The Hungarians are still there. Definitely got Poles and Rus on top of the Danubians. I think they like to be swords for hire and don't mind fighting with Westerners. Yeah. Pax Mongolica. Oh, Mongolica. Yeah. I like that. Rivers of Blood. Fields of No... I kind of like that. What happened to the Hungarian... The Hungarian people is still there. But it's like... You know how the French conquered England? Like William of Normandy conquered England? And then there are sophisticated English words like RSVP is Respondez-vous s'il vous plaît. That's actually the acronym. It's literally French. The cutlery and there's like I would like to have a steak. That's like the French word. But then the English farmer's like, oh, you want beef, and that's the Anglo-Saxon word, right? So there'd be a lower class that dictates certain elements of the language and an upper class which dictates certain elements of the language. And that's what would happen in Hungary. there would be a cultural sort of melding between the Mongols and the Magyars. So the Magyars still exist, just not in the same way. And if anything, they're more reminiscent of their old Magyar roots than they are the Christian Latinized Hungarians. Well, 1300 Slovakia was de facto ruled independently from Hungary. It's a similar deal with Ottoman Egypt. Okay, so it could be that this is just an autonomous region. That's interesting. But yeah, there's a lot of things that I still need to kind of figure out. It's like, how big is this Danubian Khanate? Is it like here? And then it's like, this is the main capital, the trading capital, but it's still kind of a nomad. So they have this territory, which lets them expand their reach into these areas. And then the Volga Khanate is like here. I need to like probably bring up the maps. I have rivers. Oh, this is an old version of my usual standard one. So I'll just open up my Krasnacht one. You might see some spoilers for episode 3. But this is what you get for a little treat for tuning into the stream. I think I have a more updated river somewhere. You can tell that this is really organized. Here, this is the rivers. So I can take this, put it in here, put it on top. I think this is lined up now. And then we can highlight a river. This is the Volga. So we can highlight this. These major rivers. If it's the Danubian Khanate, it makes more sense for them even like push down into Belgrade and take that. Hold on. So I want to make it kind of just a note, basically, like rivers in the Volga. Anybody play Persona 5? It's one of my favorite games of all time. So these are the rivers, just really roughly. They're probably not even lined up properly. Yeah, they're definitely not. So let's just I think it's more like this. Yeah, let's just line it up like that. We know that those there. Okay, these are actually the right rivers, right? How would this affect the colonization of South America? So I think that what's an interesting aspect of this whole scenario is that the Christian faith has basically been butting their heads against the Mongolians for a really long time. The like critical, vital part of the Reconquista was when the Almohads broke apart and they were able to start chipping away at all these guys. But if the Christian world, especially France, is like having so many civil wars, they were basically funding the Reconquista, at least from what I understand. They wouldn't be able to make any more incursions in the south. There could be a new third dynasty, the Nasrids maybe, that take over Andalusia and like consolidate it into a kingdom, meaning that in 1337 they're more powerful and more capable of resisting a Reconquista. That's not to say that there wouldn't be an opportunity or like they'd be too weak, but it would be even instead of it being like uneven and in favor of the Christians. And if given enough time, when these people start trying to find new trade routes, they could definitely start colonizing South America. So especially because of the way that the geography works, the Iberian Muslims would be able to take over this area. And then England, especially if it's French, they could even like deport Anglo-Saxons to here's like whatever, to go work these fields, I don't care. And then like they're just naturally demographically, England starts to be more French, and it's just like an extension of French, which is crazy to consider, but there's a possibility with the game mechanics, right? I don't think there'd be any Mongolian colonizations, especially not over here. I don't think the Mongolian dynasty in Yuan would last very long, but it is still existent in EU5. It might be a little more strong because of the natural effects of having a better trade with more land and more taxes, but it's not really that much of a difference because of how everything else works out. So I don't know, like it wouldn't really affect this area much. But and then I don't know if Germany would be able to do more. Maybe the Dutch are able to consolidate themselves and start doing their own little things here. The Hansa might do some stuff, I'm not sure, but that's what EU5 is kind of meant for. Like EU5 is supposed to simulate these things, so if you just change the nations that exist in Western Europe, it'll figure out it will figure out the rest. So what are we talking about right now? Well, I'm showing my rough outline for 1337. The French situation, the Mongolian situation, and the Rus are not properly mapped out. I'm still talking with a lot of people about what we could be doing with everything from this point on. Canals constructed 500 years later. I don't know about that. There's no way I'm going to do a medieval alternate history. Yeah, I know. I probably won't touch a medieval alternate history again. Like, this is so crazy. This made me wonder how much of the Hungarian population would be affected. The Mongol invasion was pretty devastating. The maximalist mob, Hungary, is possible the Hungarians would be wiped out entirely. It wouldn't be wiped out entirely. Maybe the Hungary that you know would be wiped out entirely. In the canon that we're basing it off, this video, they say that half of the population of Bohemia and Hungary were destroyed. So, and that was like in 1248 or 1247. And the only thing that would really be preventing it from just basically becoming a Russia-style consolidate the land here and then reconquer it and then settle it is basically the prowess of the Hungarian and Mongolian combat efficiency in this region. But in EU5, there's plenty of ways that the way that the pops work and how they migrate, you could actually see something like, I don't know, these Karanolans breaking off and then uniting with the Croatians, getting the cultures together, and then in the Slovakians maybe having a Slavic population in this area instead of it being German. I don't know how the Czechs would be affected by the Mongolians. I don't think there'd be as much of a like cultural fascination that the Hungarians and the Mongolians would have for each other, but I think there would still be some sort of cultural effect. The Mongolian Empire thrived on trade. Europe would focus on survival more. This interesting debate that you guys are having. I'll see if I can check that out. Tsar Khanate alternate history. No, I have not. It's pretty interesting though. You see a much better colonial game for Denmark. Yes, that's a good point, because somebody was mentioning like Swedish politics that was happening at the time. But I think that it might make more sense for Denmark to basically become the Baltic guy. Instead of being an enemy of the Mongols, they're like, okay, fine, we'll just trade with you. The Novgorod, I think it was even a trade republic. So the Novgorodians, who are vassals of the Mongols, but maybe not for long, are working with the Danes. The Swedish are having succession crises. Nobody's able to help from this. They like basically calm our union without having a Wittelsbach on the throne. Yeah, Vinland. You can see a Scandinavian, Canadian area here. They basically take this. That makes sense to me. Carthage, yeah. Is that a Hearts of Iron 4 mod? Because if it's a Hearts of Iron 4 mod, I think that's so distant that it's like insane. But if it's an EU4 or EU5 mod, I think that has a lot more potential. And just in general, the longer that a point of divergence goes, the more fantastical and harder it is to predict the future or use it as a baseline for your work. So yeah, if it's like that, I was even thinking about making like a meme videos, like the next best Hearts of Iron 4 mod, and it's like, what if Romulus died instead of Romulus? It's 1936, and it's like, what do you mean? Like, it's like 3,000 years of history, and it's just like the Roman Empire instead of the Roman Empire. It still exists in the world. It's like, what? Like, there's just kind of like a big dunk on, well, not a dunk, like a roast, I guess, of typical Hearts of Iron 4 mod stuff. Another thing that would be interesting is like the Teutons. I don't know, like, so I guess the questions that I think I really want to have ironed out with your guys' input is stuff like this. Post-finum? Oh, really? That's what post-finum is? I've heard of the name. I haven't really looked into it. Excuse me. I am going to try to do a start date in 1337. I find that in most mods, if you try to change the start date, you're just completely screwed because of how often you need to work around the technologies and stuff, like it's just going to be 1337. Yeah, hold on. What if Mussolini was an inch shorter axis wins World War II? Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Sorry about that. Okay, so one, I'm wondering, would Meissen still exist? What are the boundaries of the Danubian and Volgan Khanates? What's happening in what's up with Anatolia? There's some of these questions might not be answered in the video, and it'll be like really left open-ended for anybody else, but I think what's most important is that we focus on the Mongolian situation here. Yeah, I think that's, I'll just how would the Mongolian Empire be divided? So that's a really good question. I think, do I have a historical map that I can use? It's 1260 and 1600. Yeah, so I want to see if I can find this. So I link this in all of my video descriptions. I use this resource a lot. It's a historical QBAM thing. I'm going to link it in the chat here. So all these reference maps are pulled off of this, and I take them and I adapt them where I need to. So there's a world in 1300 here, disconnected. Apparently we disconnected. I've never seen that before. Is everybody still here? There's a terrible resolution. Are you serious? Let's just try downloading it instead of copying it. Maybe that does better. Oops. Can somebody talk so I know that we exist? We're still here. Okay, good. Thank you. So this is unfortunately not a good reference because it's not the right resolution. Oh wait, no, maybe this is. Maybe this is the right resolution. There we go. So I in order to make my videos properly work, I upscale it by 2 times. So anyway, this is a 1300s by Danubian art on, I think, DeviantArt. So you can see here there's a little bit of division here now. I don't know how accurate this is. It's not even placed properly. This might be better. And I scaled it wrong. Hold on, I need to do this again. So I need to scale it with, instead of bicubic, it needs to be nearest neighbor, so that it doesn't have blurring on the edges like that. So now it's going to be hard edged like everything else in my videos. So you need to always line it up properly after. So I think this is the White Horde, this is the Blue Horde, this is Hungary, this is the Holy Roman Empire, all the stuff that we know. But as we know, our boundaries look more like this, where the Mongols control up to this, and the Polish are basically completely subjugated. My voice is cutting off. Okay, interesting. Let me know if it keeps cutting off. And then there's a bunch of little disparate things here. Poland and Lithuania eventually consolidate it and become the Commonwealth. Russia forms and all that stuff. But it's dictated by the whims of the powerful Khanates that basically dictate the policy here. The Eastern Roman Empire is like consolidated at this point, the Nicene one. Charles got his kingdom of Sicily here. Aragon got the kingdom, this duchy of Sicily. There's a big fight between them or whatever. This is the 1300s, but things are a lot different now. The Holy Roman Empire's boundaries are pushed over even further than it is currently depicted, and all this other stuff. But what I'm wondering is, and what other people are wondering is, what will the division of the empire be? So I believe that the way that this is currently depicted in 1300 is, this is the Yuan, this is Chagatai, this is the Blue Horde, this is the White Horde, this is the Ilkhanate. And that's the Mongolian Empire's successors. Basically, after Genghis died, he gave his 4 sons different regions of the world. Batu's descendant, or whatever Batu's line is from. You got all this. Chagatai's got this. Ilkhanate, I think, was supposed to go to the Yuan, but it was disconnected, so it became its own like viceroyalty. Literally, il Khanate means like subject Khan, right? Like it's like I'm the subject of the Khanate or whatever, right? So it was like a big Muslim thing. This is they started to role play as Chinese when they previously were like, no, it's Mongolian and we conquered it by void. Yeah, so then this is the way that the realm was divided. So instead of it being mapped out like this, we should probably start showing it in different ways. So I want to say this is the full Mongol Empire, but by 1337 it would definitely be divided. So we'll use the color scheme that these wonderful people had used before, and we'll start with the Ilkhanate. So when I use a reference for a video, I, of course, always credit the original creator. And then I alt-click, fill in the map here, and then there. So we have the Ilkhanate. The river, I didn't do it in the same channel because then the rivers would be obstructed. All Mongol successors should be in an international organization. Potentially. I'm a little hesitant to have it be exactly in that way. Hold on. Where is the Volga? I need to make sure that I'm not... Yeah, okay, so this is the Volga. This is a different river. This is the Dnieper, I think. It could be that the Dnieper is the boundary between the Danubian and the Volgan Khanate. So when we look at this 1300s reference, we look at this 1300s reference, and we select this blue horde. Was it really that far though? Did the Danubian Khanate control all of this? What do you guys think? What should the boundary of the Danubian Khanate be? You mentioned Czechia. What could happen? The Mongols took over the region. Its wealth would be diminished. Yes, it would definitely be diminished. Maybe the Don. Yes, I think it might already... Well, it's a little not so much the Don. This is the Don, right? Or is this the... I don't know rivers in Eastern Europe. I should probably know. But I don't. So this is going to be the Volga Khanate. And this is going to be based off of the color. Let's try to see if we can do like a... There's like a Volgan. Isn't there a Volgan Bulgarian color? And this is a Skaldagrim's unexpurgated color keys. The Suck color scheme. Volga German, no. Finno-Volgic, other Volga, Finno-Urgic, Kamel, Tartarstan. Maybe we'll just do Tartarstan. Volga Tartars. That makes sense. This would be the most Tartarian of the regions. This is the Don. Okay, so then they would have the Caucasus as well. So if we compare... Well, first, let's compare the 1300s, if there's any dynamics here. No. So we're going to select this. But now all this territory here is not what we want. So if we do contiguous, then it eliminates this area. And then if we do uncontiguous, then we can select all the black and brown areas that exist with these other things. I know that Peroslav is not supposed to exist, but it's not supposed to be contiguous. I know that Peroslav is not supposed to exist, so we'll adjust that when needed. Whatever. Let's see here. So this is the Volga, and we still want to color in the Volga. So there's this thing I do that stroke, it makes the borders look prettier. That you can turn it back on, and it makes exclaves like this obvious. And then internal borders like this. You probably need to do this to make sure that the boundaries are correct. But you can see here there's a lot of little errors here. This is why I don't usually do it like this. Here, I don't know if y'all play RuneScape, but I've been having fun. The Gridmaster game mode has been really good. It's nice to be able to play that sort of stuff really fast and not have to worry too much about I don't know, it's just nice to be able to experiment with new content. So I'll figure out the exact borders and why this exists in a weird way later. But this seems like a good starting point for the Volga Khanate. But now let's talk about the Danubian Khanate and see if we can find a thing. That's the Dnieper would be a better boundary since they're wider and easier to cross. You mean the Don's easier to cross than the Dnieper? They split in 3 rivers, it'd be harder to manage. Yeah, maybe. Well, I'll look into that. Let's see here. Pannonian Avars? Huns? There's no, like, Mongol whatever thing here. But I don't know. Maybe other Pannonian country? The color kind of looks nice. Maybe we'll do that. So now, because it's less based on history, we need to pull up the, pull up our, hold on, what is this? This is the Danubian content. Then this is the Mongols that we know and love. We're going to select and select, but then instead of keeping everything selected, we're going to contiguously apply things here. This is the boundary I think that Grid is suggesting. Boats exist. Well, the problem is that like the Mongols weren't really that good at boat manufacturing, right? Interesting that the Danubian Khanate would have Ruthenia land. I might adjust this Prussian situation here. But it makes sense to have like a training ground of sorts for the or like some other sort of primary region that's very steppe-like. Imagine Ukraine. I don't know how steppe it is, but it's close enough, right? Like to have some sort of cultural consistency. It might be time to start consolidating who gets which tributaries. These borders actually look really good. I really like this. I thought I wouldn't like the Danubian Khanate's borders that much. This looks really good. Croatia would have pushed more into Bosnia. Yeah, probably, especially if it's like a tributary or like administrative region. I think yeah. So it was a part of the Kingdom of Hungary. So it's more likely that it would actually be a direct part of the Danubian Khanate. So because instead of using a bucket and only collecting the terra incognita and using a big brush with it selected, I didn't have that problem with the rivers here. Northern European plain. Northern European plain is a geographical region that covers all this stuff. It consists of all this stuff. Elevations are flat. Okay. So you're saying that this would actually have it would be pretty good for the Khanate. Yeah, probably. We'll see how it goes. But the problem is that there's a bunch of forests in between that make direct things not that good. Whoever said Denmark should be aligned with the Mongols, Northern Germany and Baltic states are tributary. Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. I agree. Yeah, we'll definitely be doing that. Are you still ill? Not as bad as before, but I do every once in a while need to cough and stuff like that. I'm probably not contagious anymore, if that's the... if you're worried about getting sick. I don't know why I mentioned that. So sorry guys, you might get my illness if you watch the video. No, I'm not silly. So they're the Volga Khanate. I like these borders of the Volga Khanate more, because then it really causes a problem between these. Oh yeah, by the way, it's finally time for Pereslav to be properly depicted. There we go. Excuse me. Okay, so now Pereslav is properly depicted as not a actual place. But now the problem is which of these Russian tributaries are actually tributaries of the Volga Khanate as compared to the Danubian Khanate, and how much of this should Poland get this stuff? Is Lithuania destined to be conquered by the Danes? It kind of makes sense, honestly. Oh no, I hope not, Brett. The Danes were involved in several times with the Swedish civil wars. They supported different pretenders. Denmark was more of a real state than Sweden was at the time. Yeah, that makes sense. So, it could even be that they eventually like inherit the entirety of Sweden. With Glassbat, I think the Baltics and Danes would resist and then fold the Koreans. Yeah. Is that Poland free? No, that Poland is at least the historical context of this, at least the alternate historical context of this, is that in 1249, yeah, thank you, YouTube, for checking to see if I want to listen to this. I do not want to have my stream copyright struck. Let's go back to the beginning here. Wait, maybe let's listen to the Mongolian, the Khans of the Steppe OST again. That Poland is a Piast who submitted to the Mongols and pushed his claims for this region. I don't know if that tributary status would last until 1337. But I think that it would stick around for a while. Everything up to Polotsk should be Danubian. What's Polotsk? Polotsk. Town in Belarus. It's a town in the Vidbesk region. Again, I'm guessing... yeah, I see. Oh, I see. So, like, the Stalin line. For some reason, that's whenever I see these rivers, I just think, okay, I need to put my my infantry on this line, and then have a forward infantry for the German invasion. Whenever, because it's like it's Hoi 4 brain. Like I really like playing the Soviets. I'm glad you're feeling better, Brett. Teutonic Order doesn't exist. So it would, just not in the same way. It's likely that they would be more focused on defensive maneuvers, but it could be that the Teutonic Order links up with the Danish, and then the Danish get a bad trade deal over whatever, and there's like Teutons here. I don't know. It kind of makes sense. Starting Christians all over the Catholics submit to the Khan. Yeah, so the interesting thing is that the Nestorians would probably show up, but I don't think that Nestorian would be a dominant region here, right? So this is a Lithuanian vassal? What? I forgot that. Really? Minor Russian states. So if this is Polotsk and this is Lithuania, so then look, so we're gonna take this out of the tributaries and puppets. So this is now the Volgan tributaries, and the vassals will just be directly mentioned. And the stroke, instead of it being based off of the Mongolian color, will be based off the Volga color. Look at how easy that was. Brilliant. But now we know that Croatia, Carinola, Bavaria, Meissen, in Poland would not be Volgan tributaries. Instead, they would be Danubian tributaries. Lithuanian and the Lithuanian vassal would be Danubian tributaries. The Danubian tributaries will have a stroke effect. This stroke effect will be modeled off this, but be pink. There we go. Now, only problem is that the Danubian Khanate has some Polish land. And what the hell's going on here? Rivers? Why are the rivers pink? Because the rivers are Danubian tributary. That explains that. The rivers are not a Danubian tributary. That they're not even a part of the Mongol Empire. They should be all the way up here. That looks a lot better. But let's go back to the Danubian Khanate. So the Danubian Khanate and the Danubian tributaries are going to be like this. The Volga Khanate and the Volgan tributaries are going to be like this. The Ilkhanate exists. Does this map look right? I think so. Hold on. IRL Teutons took over Livonia and Estonian. Yes. The Pope. Okay, so the Pope was executed in the canon of the video. By the way, again, reminder, after this stream, watch that movie. If you have YouTube Premium, download it and listen to it. If you have time, just like sit down and watch it, and it's so good. It's one of the best things I've ever seen, honestly. But the Pope got executed by Batu during... And how did even Batu get there? Well, you'll have to watch the video to find out. The Pope doesn't exist, but the cardinals in the Holy Roman Empire would. So the new power base for the Holy Roman Empire, I mean the Pope, would be in... what the heck? Why is that happening again? Sorry, just give me a second. Carinola, Bavaria. Should be Danubian tributaries. There. Okay. I kind of want to change this color. But, so there'd be a new Christian sect that would be basically propagating from the Holy Roman Empire. I think I might actually have Meissen be conquered by Germany. Maybe Bavaria as well. It just seems that there needs to be some sort of buffer. Maybe they take some land off of Meissen, not all of it. Just the borders might make more sense. This would be not a Volgan, but a tributary here. These rivers are throwing me off. I need to see the... No, I'll just deal with it. I think by this point, the Byzantines would not be paying tribute to anybody. I think by that point, they would be able to safely resist. When is the start date? 1337. Because it's a EU5 mod that I'm trying to make based off of a 1250-ish time period. Boleslav, Poland intensifies. It's a Lithuanian tributary, not Belarus. Things are lucky to Sweden. The papacy is really important, legitimizing. Strongman, yeah, okay, it makes sense. Thanks for the heart, whoever did that. I respond with 100. Yeah, the Mongols ended Catholicism, but what's the name of the movie? I'll post it again in the chat. It's called Mongols Invade Western Europe Alternate History Documentary by Wizards and Warriors. Very good. I loved this. It was so awesome to see. Anyway, let's get back to doing the minutiae of the mapping here. Excuse me. Still have to be coughing every once in a while. So we're basing the borders of the Mongolian Empire based off of this 1300 reference. I'm going to have these two selected, and I'm going to manually... It's a weird Christian denomination. Yeah, I'm going to have... I was considering having that entire Venetian storyline just removed, but the battle on the Po River or whatever, the Sanzo, I think it was, is such an epic and iconic part of the series. I don't want to get rid of it. And it justifies why after the Battle of Erstagom, the Mongols are like, okay, no more after this. We've lost way too many of our soldiers. Let's just regroup for a bit and try to start doing trade with these people. And then that leads to a crusade that we've already discussed a little bit about. So the Mongolian Empire. Chagatai. And then we have the Yuan. That Volga Danubian Khanate split is so satisfying. I love that. I want to watch more Wizards and Warriors stuff because it's like that high quality lore content that I loved. I was really into World of Warcraft back in the day, and I like cared more about the lore of I cared more about the lore of World of Warcraft than World of Warcraft the game itself, which is crazy to say. But I would spend a lot more time like watching all that stuff than worrying about anything else, you know? What do we got here? So Shu Han, Qi, Wu, Yan, Tang, later Jin, Min, Jin Yang, Song, Western Jin, Great Yuan. There you go. Hold on. Great Yuan. Boom. And then let's just see what our original full Mongol Empire looked like. Interesting. Maybe I'll just leave those territorial boundaries up for debate. Or maybe just for fun, I'll extend the Yuan up a bit. Up like this. Hide the Mongol Empire. View the Great Yuan. Fill it in. Then look at this. Invert, but carefully draw only on these rivers. Now we're done this. No, we're not. Dance of the Yurt. I can't believe that they got that Mongolian throat singer to do the songs for the DLC. It's probably one of the coolest things that they've ever done. There'd be a Red Turban Rebellion. Yes, there would. The Yuan would likely not survive it. The Great Venetian Buyout was my favorite part. Felt the Iron Bank of Game of Thrones was going to war. Yeah, that was a pretty cool part, and I was excited for it. The only thing that I found to be a little unrealistic is them trying to form their own Christianity. I feel like the scars of the Latin Crusade would have impacted their ability to coordinate with the Orthodox people who ended up collaborating with the Venetian Republic. But the unprecedented rise of the Mongols and their attempts to face the invasion would have justified it. I think it would have made more sense if it was like, we're Catholic, but we're gonna like respect. I don't know, this is such a hard thing. It seems like the only option to justify the religious conflict. But yeah, so that's why I eventually decided to keep everything but up until the Battle of Erstagom into the Mongolian victory. The Red Turban Rebellion. Yeah. What else we got here? Pauline makes a great point here. I agree. Pauline, what did Pauline say? French being controlled by the Angevins. Everything else, the yellow turn. Okay, anyway, let's get focused back here. So something I really don't know about history is the Ilkhanate. Did it not exist by 1300 or 1337? I think it didn't exist by 1337. The Mamluks, I know, did a really good job facing them. Maybe by 1370, the even this Albanian thing is just Byzantine. But this is a low. I'll just start doing it. I already started doing it. Just do a contiguous. There you go. And then we'll just get rid of these boundaries too. Because I really think that this power vacuum, the Byzantines would pop off way, or like bounce back earlier. So they'd be stronger than they would be in the usual EU5 start date. Would Meissen still exist? I'm thinking no. Boundaries of the Danubian Volgan Khanates. That was I think addressed. What's up with Anatolia? Not sure. And then what was? I don't have a 3. This time period makes my brain hurt. I won't lie. Yeah, it makes my brain hurt too. But then again, my brain already hurts because I'm sick. So maybe this is the perfect time for me to be working on this. The Swedish crown was elective. Oh, really? That's interesting. Cool. Ilkhanate was formed in 1925 something, but I'm wondering, would it survive 1337? It wouldn't, probably. But maybe that's just the future modders' problem to worry about. Let's focus more on Europe. Okay, so as you can see, Rome has not been... I've just been putting off this, like, fix the... I've been putting off this fix the French situation thing for so long. I'm just going to start doing it. I hate it. I really hate it, but we're going to start doing it now. So let's look at the boundaries here. You can see here the Holy Roman Empire's boundaries exist up to here. But we, oh, what? Oh, this is a little off. There, now it's lined up properly. Let's take a look at what the boundary is here. Yeah, okay. Well, I think that it would be larger than this. So this is a big amalgam layer. And I don't usually do this, but I'm going to, instead of having it all be on the right layer, I want to have it fractured. French partition. And I can always just select all the colors of all these things later. But Burgundy being a part of the Holy Roman Empire makes sense. This isn't Paris, so, but maybe Paris should even be taken. I don't know. The Holy Roman Empire would manage to take this stuff too. So, that I just really hate doing that though. Whatever. No, I'll just keep it like this for now. It would be interesting to see if I have a map of showing the Duchy of Normandy. Do I have it like 1300s? No. Okay, well, whatever. But the English would control that. There's a hole in the Rus. Yes, there is. I think that might just be direct controlled. I'm not sure. The Mongols forcing the schism to reconcile is a leap in any scenario. Cool points, but only cool points, yeah. The Ottomans or something, and you know, kinder like the what? Kinder, kind of like the Ottomans. It could be a different Turkish thing. It could just be a bunch of Turkish warlords here. Maybe the Mycenaeans wouldn't control as much territory here, but I think that given everything, the Eastern Roman Empire would have managed to consolidate a lot more earlier. Do I really have any reference for? Oh, these are modern territorial borders. What is this? 1900? What happened here? 900. This is like the Gauls or whatever. What am I looking at? I actually don't understand this at all. 900. Why is this a Holy Roman Empire border? Why does it exist? Huh? I'm going crazy, you guys. Whatever. This is a good boundary as any for the situation here. Let's just fill in all the blue bits from this point forward, and let's make a manual black border to differentiate the territories. Oops. It's kind of nice seeing all these little black borders between decentralized realms, but it is like smoke and mirrors because I have no idea what any of these independent regions would be called. Let me just fill this in like that. There we go. Great. It's around 900. East France, yeah, it could have been, yeah. It could have been that because I was like, isn't that when Charlemagne's empire still existed? But it could have been the division of the Charlemagne Empire that I wasn't really familiar with. I was like, didn't the Holy Roman Empire exist? But yeah, it wouldn't have controlled all that stuff. Yeah. Because it was like Ludwig the German that managed to consolidate all that, right? Am I wrong? It's just been a while since I've done anything medieval. I've like done a detox of not detox, that implies that it's bad. I've been deliberately really resisting looking into any history about medieval Europe and stuff because I really want to have a really fun experience with All Under Heaven once it comes out. But that looks like a really good HRA actually. I like that a lot. The Bavarian and Meissen situation's a little weird, and the legal problems of having the not the right amount of electors could be an interesting problem for them to have. But that's the future modders problem. If one exists, we'll see. Given how much modding support there is, I saw a little bit of the dev diary that came out today. They're finally giving developer tools to modders. I cannot believe how amazing that is. Like, I worked in a bunch of game studios, a bunch. I worked in several game studios, and they all had their own proprietary stuff, or like game whatevers, and you had to like learn them. And it was like, okay. And then it made the fact that you worked on a mod where you didn't even have any of the support of the developer's tools to then make something out of it is like crazy skill, right? But now they're giving people the ability to do all that stuff for themselves, and that's crazy. Oh, I love big HREs. If you've been watching my oh, did I expand the French partition by a lot? I did. That's unfortunate. If you've been watching my EU4 section of my mecha campaign, you'll know I love big HREs, but I'm also going to be trying to destroy it soon. Okay, so this Occitan. So this is a little thing I don't really get. Would the Occitans control Foy? I guess they would. And is this going to be called Occitan? Yeah, might as well. Let's just do it. These gray areas are my I don't know, but I'm going to have them be HRE provinces because now they're being consolidated enough that I'm going to say that these unknown provinces. I guess it's all of them, right? Yeah, they're just part of the HRE. Congratulations. And then maybe Savoy should be as well. Congratulations, you're being rescued. Hold on. Let's just merge the layers. There. Kind of a weird solution to that problem, but there you go. And then the northern plain would be a bunch of HRE stuff. Maybe there's territory here for that. I don't know. It'll be called Toulouse. Okay. French partition. Let's anti-alias this entire red area. Then control this stuff. Then this is claimed by the HRE, but the Aragonese might be resisting that whole situation. Toulouse, okay. And then this French partition. We're gonna select this. We're gonna continue contiguous, and this is what I think the boundaries should be. Maybe it's like this, and that's HRE. This is just vibes, by the way. Yeah, I think I'm comfortable with this. So now we can start to incorporate this. Now we're gonna separate these into their own layers. This is gonna be what the heck is this place called? Brittany? It's going to be a tributary of the English. So this is going to be an inner stroke with this color. But it's not even, doesn't have anything in it yet. There. Now, we're going to select everything that is English colored. But we're going to hide Brittany first so we don't accidentally highlight any of that. Then we're going to select England and then just fill it in. Not with Brittany colors, but this. Then we're going to call this Toulouse. We're going to select all this and settle that. Then for Wenceslaus's HRE, which we are just going to call the HRE, we're going to fill it all in, but without the stroke layer to avoid any boundary issues. There we go. That's very satisfying to me. I don't know about you guys. There's no France anymore. Yeah, I think that like basically the everyone's like no France allowed, but then 1337, England goes, but how? But I be France anyway, and then no, the English wouldn't have sided with Subutai. They would have just capitalized on the anarchy following Charles's rise to France, rise to HRE, and then destruction. And then the English would probably, because their nobility is French, they'd probably just be like, okay, we're the Kingdom of England. Well, now we're also the Kingdom of France. They might even move the capital to Paris and be like, we're France. And then England's like, what? And then they have a big fight. There's a lot of things that could be interesting with this dynamic, the cultural problems. France isn't gonna break in this timeline? No. I think it'd be fun, honestly, to have it this way. It's a little weird. The Tyrolean... Tyrol. Yes, here, but we can fix that. Thank you. We need to look at a 1300 map. Yeah. Yes, but not as much of this would be... There. So, this is like the Lombard League, I think. Maybe up to this would be HRE. Genoa would be ascendant, so they'll have this for themselves. Maybe not Florence and stuff. That would go to the Kingdom of Sicily if it even exists. So this is the HRE. They got all this land. Maybe they got this and this. There. It's terrible borders, actually. Let's just not be lazy. Okay, there's something really therapeutic about making the maps like this. It's like a little puzzle that you have to deal with. Oh, shit. Hold on, I gotta do something. Hey everyone, I'm gonna have to go. Sorry about that. Something came up. But it's really nice having everybody work together on making this map look better. I do think the Mongol Empire will still collapse, and I'll be sure to incorporate anything. If you have any other ideas in the chat that you guys want to do, please leave a comment on the VOD and I'll check it out. Or you can talk to me on the Discord. Thanks everyone. Hope you have a good one. Goodbye.